It's that time of the year again. The Grinch will try to steal the holiday. Boring whites will fall in love. Kids will be left alone at home.
Another war will be waged upon it. It's time for Christmas.
The best Christmas I ever had was when my woman and I first started dating. We had a long-distance relationship. In Sweden, the day before Christmas, Christmas Eve, is the big day. In Holland, it's the first and second day of Christmas. Yes, we need 2 days of Christmas. We kind of need 2 days of any major holiday, to be honest. I was confused by this whole thing, this whole ordeal, so I ended up spending my Christmas Eve on an airplane from Holland to Sweden, effectively missing both the Swedish and Dutch Christmas celebrations. It was very relaxing. Growing up, my family obviously had Christmas traditions. We'd go to my grandparents, we'd exchange gifts, have a big Christmas dinner. When I was a young child, I'd be the one dressed up as Santa Claus and I'd hand everybody the presents until they got tired of me not being able to read their names. Usually on the second day of Christmas, we'd have a huge dinner at church, which usually ended up by watching the church-approved Christmas movie Jingle All the Way. And the yearly speech about how much like Arnold's character in this movie, the Lord will go to great lengths for his children. But when I stumbled into joining a Swedish family, I'd learned of a whole new level of tradition. I know you've heard of Midsummer, so you're probably not surprised that a Swedish Christmas can get pretty intense. In Sweden, Christmas starts on the fourth Sunday before Christmas. This is where one hangs up the Christmas stars and the Advent lights. Most families have a holy Advent fika with special saffron pastries. They're really good. In the holiday season, you're allowed to have one of these pastries a day. That's on top of your already allotted 2 fika pastries a day. Advent is a huge deal here. Everybody buys the calendars, the lights, and other accoutrements. There's even a yearly Advent TV show. For 15 minutes a day, every Swedish family sits around the TV and watches an underfunded, governmentally created TV show made for kids. This year's show is obviously not as good as the one from when you were 9. Nativity scenes are not a big deal here. I had to explain to my woman what one was, and she was confirmed into the Swedish church as a teenager. Swedish people are generally not that into practicing religion, but they do love the Swedish church. It doesn't quite make sense, but Swedish people do not care much about baby Jesus, but they care a lot about an Italian child called Lucia. Lucia was burned at the stake, and now Swedes celebrate her life or commemorate her life on the third Advent. In clan-like white gowns with candles burning in their hair, Lucia sings songs from the smallest of villages to the largest of cities. You cannot escape it. You cannot escape it. 3 o'clock on Christmas Eve, all of Sweden turns their TV to SVT1, where the Swedish government has licensed a Disney animation block called Kalle Anka.
Donald Duck.
Here comes the yearly discussion about what scenes should be taken away because of new views on political correctness. Old Disney stuff can be really hard to watch if you're not into racial stereotypes. When the animation block starts, all of Sweden leaves their TV on and goes to the other room to finish the preparations for their Christmas dinner. This is where you find me and a 4-year-old alone on the couch discussing what scenes should be taken away next year. The preparations include a specific group of Christmas candies, which, as far as I can tell, are chocolate bars melted on breakfast cereal and homemade caramels. After Kalle Anka, it's time for a movie about a young boy who wants to have a grandfather and befriends a dying old man. Entertainment is spelled S-A-D in Swedish. Christmas dinner is obviously a smorgasbord of Christmas ham, Swedish meatball, fish, and snaps. This comes as no surprise, as this is basically the way every Swedish celebration goes. After dinner, dessert is gröt and glögg. Glögg is a shittier version of glühwein, and glühwein is already kind of shitty. This is accompanied by the yearly discussion about if anybody actually likes glögg. I do not partake in either gröt or glögg. I've tried. I don't like it. It's just not my thing. At some point, Tomte will barge in. The Swedish Santa costume is basically the same as any other Santa costume, with one terrifying addition: a very scary mask. This mask will ensure that any child sitting on Santa's lap will cry. It will also ensure that every horror fan will be thinking about Michael Myers or Leatherface. Luckily enough, Tomte is always in a hurry, so this part doesn't take all that long. Children will soon be put to bed, and adults will get ready for the Christmas game. I don't want to get into the Christmas game too much. It's perhaps a tale for another time. Let's just say that this game will reopen old wounds and lay bare resentment. Last year was probably my second favorite Christmas ever. My woman and I found ourselves without a plan for Christmas Eve. Partially due to the high divorce rate in Sweden, it can be quite tricky to plan things. And as we are a childless couple, nobody really cares what we do for Christmas. My sister-in-law had given birth a couple of days before Christmas, so she was also planless. She was going to have Christmas Eve with her husband's family, but the baby kinda got in the way. Luckily, my woman and I had nothing going on, so we could hang out with her and her stale red lump. So her husband could have Christmas with their toddler and his parents. We spent Christmas eating pizza and watching rom-coms while her sister slept and we cuddled with the baby. This Christmas was not that different from our average Saturday night, but that sounds pretty good to me.